All right, guys, got another question for you for a roadside chat. This one is a long fact pattern, but I think it's worth it, right? This one is, the question is determining if a bicycle is stolen based on an alleged victim's accusation. So this question comes from an officer in California, and he did a very, very good job giving me, a lot of background for this case. And the essence of this case is there probable cause, and is there a Fourth Amendment issue, and basically taking an alleged victim's word at face value that somebody has their bike and it's stolen, right? With not much more. And I think that's a great scenario. So let me read the fact pattern and let me address a few issues, okay? So a little long, but again, that's why we're here, to see what you would do. All right, so this is what he said. A resident of a neighboring city came to our PD to report that a bicycle was stolen from her home about 3 days ago. The theft had not been reported to her local PD prior to coming to our PD. Very common, right? But she did post the theft on a social media app called Nextdoor. The bicycle was an older beach cruiser style bicycle with a child seat attached to the back. The resident did not have any proof of ownership, such as a purchase receipt or a serial number of the stolen bike. Now, at this point, one question I do have for the officer, and I don't know the answer is did the resident also have pictures of her, with the bike, with her kid, on the bike? That would kind of help circumstantially that the bike belonged to her. I'm thinking that she did. I'm going to assume that she did, because it's going to be pretty hard to ask people to look for a stolen bike with just some words. You're going to probably want a picture. So let's assume that the victim here has a picture. That's all she has, though, is a picture of her riding the bike, or next to the house and so forth. A few days after the victim posted the theft on the app, another user on the app posted a picture showing that a black male was riding the bicycle, and that the bike matched the description that the victim said was stolen, right? So again, I'm assuming there's a picture here. If no picture, it's less circumstantial evidence that she owns the bike. According to the person who posted the picture, the male was last seen riding the bike in our city, in the cop city, behind the shopping center with a transient encampment nearby. Now, the encampment is along the 405 freeway, and the victim requests that the officers check on this area and see if they can locate her bicycle. An officer checked the area and saw a bicycle matching the description perfectly, right? So now I'm thinking that there is no picture. But anyway, it was tied to a tree inside the encampment next to one of the tents, about 1 foot or so from this particular tent. The officer contacted a white male, so did not see the other suspect riding the bicycle from the camp. The person agreed to talk to the police, and he denied knowing anything about the bicycle. After talking with the officer, the person in the tent untied the bicycle and basically handed it over to the officer and said, "Hey, look, I don't know anything about this. It's all yours," right? The officer booked it in as found property. Now, again, the person originally riding the bike was never located, and end up returning the bicycle to the victim. So the officer that did this concluded that the bicycle, was the same bike, and that it was a stolen bike. So basically, the officer, I believe that he had probable cause for it. Now, the questions by the officer is this: number one, do we have a Fourth Amendment issue for seizing the bicycle with what we knew at the time? And number two, what has to be established to determine property found is stolen, and who is the lawful owner when a serial number is not available or on file, linking a person to it, the victim? How does a victim prove that this is their property? All right. Let me see one thing. Okay. They want to kind of, the officer's like, look, is there some liability potentially about this person, the original person riding the bicycle, saying, coming back to the PD, is like, hey, you guys took my bike. All right, let's go with the first question. Is there a Fourth Amendment issue about seizing a bike? The answer is yes, there would be if there was actually a seizure. Quite frankly, I'm not sure there was a Fourth Amendment seizure here under the facts given to me, because it seems to me that after this person who claimed that he had nothing to do with his bike and, it was right next to his tent. I have to see I would have to see the encampment to see if it could reasonably be believed to be another person's bike. But let's assume that it seems clear that this bike is associated with that tent. Now that tent is this person's home. And, there's nobody else around to claim the bike potentially being mislaid or left there and so forth. Since that is kind of his property, he has an expectation of privacy in that tent under these circumstances. It seems to me that he actually gave the property to the police, and that this property, was lawfully given over to the cops. So I'm not even sure that the cops actually have a Fourth Amendment seizure under these facts. But even if this was a seizure, do the cops have probable cause? Well, that's where this is really the meat of the argument here. That's where it's thin at best. Let's assume that the person said, yes, this is my bike, or this is my friend's bike. And the cops said, well, look, we believe that bike is stolen. We're going to take it. I think that's a problem, right? I think that's a problem under the facts of this case, because in order to determine ownership of property, when it's a he said, she said, typically it's circumstantial evidence, right? What evidence does the cop have to reasonably conclude, or at least a fair probability, that the property is stolen? Now, when you don't have, original ownership documents and serial numbers, the pictures will certainly help, because, the alleged thief has some explaining to do when the victim comes forward with all these pictures, like, hey, look, this is a picture 2 years ago with me and this bike, right? And they can say, well, I bought it from this person. And of course, that might dilute the argument. But the point is what circumstantial evidence do you have? Is the person who's riding this bike, for example, here, is it seem compatible with the person driving it? Now, riding it, if the person riding it, it's a girl's bike and it's a male, and it has a child seat and there's no child, that's, or it doesn't fit, right? The bike is a kid's bike and the person riding is an adult. Look for stuff like that. Also look for, recent spray paint that they're changing the color of the bike, and you can still smell the recent fumes, right, of a rattle can paint job. Look for that the alleged thief is abnormally nervous. Why should a person be abnormally nervous when they lawfully possess the bicycle? Look for a history of theft. Are they on paper? Are they under parole or probation supervision for some crime associated with stolen property? Prior convictions and arrests and so forth, right? Are they lying to you about anything? Why would somebody who's truthful and on the up and up lie to you about stuff about the bicycle and where they got it from and so forth? So the point is that you're going to have to look for circumstantial evidence. Now, if this is all we have, if this was my case, and we are dealing with the seizure issue, we are looking at taking the bike from contested ownership. I personally would not take the bike if it was contested. If the alleged thief under these facts is saying, no, this is my bike, I bought it, it's legit, and there was no other of those circumstantial evidence, right? The nervousness, the deception, the rattle can paint job, the prior histories of theft and so forth. If none of those facts existed, I would basically tell the victim that, you're going to have to go to civil court on this one. You're going to have to go to small claims court, or hire an attorney, right, to sort this out, because I don't have enough for criminal conduct. And that's what police are. Remember, when you're talking to these victims, say, look, I'm a criminal investigator. In order for me to take enforcement action, I have to have at least probable cause. And if I don't have probable cause, I cannot take enforcement action. It turns into it could also be a civil issue at the same time, but your next remedy is civil. So, which answers, I think I answered the second question. So, if we have not effectively established ownership here, right, at least by a fair probability for probable cause purposes, could there be some liability? And the answer is, if the person comes back to the PD, then, and claims that it's their bike, and the person sues civilly, and there is no probable cause, then of course the PD owes this person a bicycle with a child seat. Now, some of you guys are probably thinking, look, hey, cops are usually right in these situations. There's a lot of intuition going on in sixth sense. And I certainly agree with that. So maybe this guy never shows up and cause he, let's say he did steal the bike, right? So no harm, no foul, but don't forget, at the end of the day, if the cop was incorrect, we don't want to be on the wrong side of the law either. So long fact pattern, but I can tell you that, you have been in situations like this. I have been in situations like this. So when I saw this, I'm like, you know what, this is really good for my audience, right? Just to remember some of the ground rules, right? So to recap, and we're going to be done. When you're dealing with stolen property and it's contested ownership, I want you, and you're going to pick a side, right? You're going to pick a side that there's a fair probability that this is a victim and, he or she is correct. I believe that property is stolen. Tell me why. What circumstantial evidence do you have that helps prove your case, right? And that's what you should be looking for. If there's not enough circumstantial evidence, you should probably stay neutral and send them to civil court. All right. So I hope it helps. Keep the questions coming. We're going to be doing a lot more of this stuff, pushing out a lot more content. Don't forget to go to bluetogold.com for your search and seizure books, your search and seizure training. I'm doing live in person, on demand, live online. All the formats are there for you guys. All right. Until next time, stay safe and keep doing that great job.
When it comes to law enforcement training, we are the gold standard. Visit bluetogold.com or call 888-579-7796 to learn more about our training, books, and free webinars. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel.